Okay, everyone. All set, Mike? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Bristol Town Council. We started at 6 o'clock with interviews, but we'll do what we always do. We're going to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, and welcome, everyone. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the first item of business is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Motion made. Sure.
I don't want to pull it. I just wanted to comment that on AA3, which is about from the harbor master, I was just astounded by the amount of money that was brought in the first 3 months of the field dock. It's $90,000 for June, July, and August. That is unbelievable. It's amazing. Just wanted to note that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, good highlight.
Thank you. So motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing no additional discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is A1. This is the town council meeting minutes for September 21st.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is A2. This is the executive session minutes from September 21st, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is B1. This is the public hearing for Mario J. Alves for Bristol Liquors, Inc., doing business as Bristol Liquors. Request for transfer of Class A beverage license to Deval Patel for Sean B. Bristol LLC, doing business as Bristol Liquors.
So as the clerk pointed out, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? That's you, Bill.
I'm here representing Mario Alves.
Could you go up to the
Oh, sure.
podium?
Sure.
If you could please state your name and
Mr.
address. for
Chairman,
the-
my name is William Dennis. I'm an attorney here in Bristol. I represent Mario Alves, the petitioner on this matter. Of course, he is petitioning the council to transfer the license, and I can represent for my client that he is in favor of this petition.
Gosh, I'd hope so.
If there are any questions, of course, Mario is here. Happy to answer any questions, any concerns.
Any questions? No? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone against? Is there anyone against? Is there anyone against?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second. Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr.
You did
Chairman-
an outstanding job, Bill.
Thank
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, the next item on the agenda is C1. This is ordinance 2022-12, chapter 28 for the zoning, article 1, section 28(1). And this is in relation to the zoning ordinance amendments regarding the cannabis related issues. This is first reading, call for public hearing on November 16th.
Motion to approve the first reading and to call for a public hearing on November 16th.
Second. Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to call for a public hearing. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is C2. This is ordinance 2022-13 for chapter 17 to the article 2 of alcoholic beverage establishments. And this is to increase the number of Class B limited licenses from 6 to 7, first reading.
Motion to approve first reading.
Second. Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to constitute first reading. Discussion? I actually have a question for the solicitor. I know that there's dialogue in our agenda talking about a potential request for an additional BV license. Would this make sense for us to create one to then remove one? Do you see where I'm going with this? So,
I was just talking to Melissa, and he's not going to be able to open without it. So.
Gotcha. Okay, excellent. All right. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D1. This is Deval Patel for Sean B. Bristol LLC, doing business as Bristol Liquors, 390 Medicom Avenue. This is the request for the transfer of the Class A intoxicating beverage license.
Based on the positive recommendations, I motion that we approve it.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Congratulations and good luck.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is D2. This is Deval Patel for Sean B. Bristol LLC, doing business as Bristol Liquors. This is the request for the Sunday sales license.
Go ahead.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Is there any discussion? Mr. Patel, you are on a roll, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck.
Does he get a
Thank you,
3-minute commercial?
Yeah, would you like a 30-second commercial? We always give you one. You are more than welcome to. No? You got it. I love your brevity, sir. Madam Clerk.
The next item on the agenda is D3. This is Matthew Maderas for Basil and Bunny, and this is the request for the one additional Class BV limited license. This is called for public hearing November 2nd.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve and call for a public hearing on November 2nd. November 2nd.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to call for public hearing on November 2nd. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, I might ask that we combine D4 and F3 if the council pleases. Mr. Brian Dwiggins is requesting an additional license, but due to the fact that the council meeting in November is November 2nd and the 16th, advertising requirements wouldn't be met. So the way the order of the agenda goes, I have to put the request for public hearing before the actual petition. So maybe call forward at 4 or combine them so I can request it.
Maybe we can have a motion to combine. How's that?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
So F1, this is Brian Dwiggins for Borealis Coffee Company, 500 Wood Street, Unit 113. This is a request for one additional class, and it's miswritten here. It says BV Limited, but it's a BV liquor license. Mr. Dwiggins is here.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve with a 6-month review.
Second.
To help, because that's,
So it would require that to be referred to the solicitor to draft an ordinance to add a full liquor license
So moved.
to be heard at the next.
Full or limited?
full, because they
He has
currently
full.
have a
limited now.
limited.
He's looking
They have
for
a
full.
limited, yeah.
Understood. Thank you.
Was there a second? I'm sorry, I did not.
Yes.
Okay, so motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to refer to the solicitor to start the
Preparing
process
it.
in creating an additional full
Full liquor license.
full
Yep.
liquor license. Any discussion?
And reduce one of the limited liquor licenses at the same time, correct?
So let's have that motion again, so we are
Right.
absolutely clear on this. Tim, would you restate the motion? And Mr. Solicitor, if you could just,
Sure,
Motion's gonna
we-
be to create a new full BV license and
Correct.
reduce the BV limited licenses by 1.
So moved.
Second.
all right, so motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony. As stated, Mary?
I just had a question. Okay. Just to clarify, so we have a limited BV license in here. Right? Is that the Basil and Bunny one, or is that a different?
That's the Basil and Bunny, who is looking to
Yeah.
do the limited.
Right.
So that one that was a few minutes ago would be targeted to that.
Would be
If-
available,
if they-
yes.
Yeah.
Which is why we're removing one.
Okay, I want
Correct.
to be clear about that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
It's all about timing is why.
Yeah.
It's timing and it's the right process, so you have full control of your license.
Right.
Everybody clear?
Yes, I'm clear.
Brian,
Yes.
you look like you wanted to share something
Oh,
before.
I
we-
was just gonna,
If you could state your full name and address for the record. please.
Brian Dwiggins, 144 Weber Road, Smithfield, Rhode Island. I just want to take a second to say thank you for seeing me today. And we're now about 4 months into our time here in Bristol, which has been going great. It's been our pleasure serving everyone, both Bristolians and out-of-town visitors and our existing customers that have been coming in. Things are going well, steadily growing month by month. September was our best month yet, 20% increase over August, and October is looking well as well. And I think that is largely in success to the Porch Fest after party for September. It really got a lot of new active, new customers and people that didn't know that we were in there. So like for those of you that were there, like the second line brought people right into Unity Park, and it was like very cool thing seeing everybody come together, the community, and all those things that we've been really looking forward to. And part of Unity Park being, you know, exactly what we had hoped it would be, being coming together as a community, pivotal. Basil and Bunny and O'Brien and Brow, which is not yet open yet, but we all kind of collaborated on doing this after party, and the after party was a smashing success. And one of the most common questions we got there was like, "Oh, can we get an espresso martini?" And we said no, but we are looking forward to hopefully soon in the next few months, hopefully being able to offload her spirits menu. So we just wanted to sort of reiterate that, you know, we are not a bar. We're sort of a very unique concept of being able to provide a place in the evening where people can come together and like have nice dessert, have like a nice meal of, you know, pastry and things like that, as well as just providing music. We have a calligraphy class coming up. We have an art closing coming up. So we're really doing a lot of those things that we had been really excited about with this big space and being a place where like where alcohol is a feature and not the focus, but it's like a complement to the things that we're already doing. So
You may have gone over your 30-second commercial.
all right,
We'll take it off on the next one. No, I'm kidding.
Cool.
The reason why I know for myself, and I'm sure for my colleagues too, is that this was an appropriate next step because so far you've done everything you said you were going to do. The feedback has been very positive, and for those reasons and the positive feedback that I'm getting from neighbors, and I'm sure my colleagues are too, this is a great and an appropriate next step.
excellent, very good, cool. Well, thank you for your time.
Chairman well said, Brian. I just want to say that what I'm hearing from around town, you guys are a fine addition to the town, and really the experience over at Borealis is great. So keep up the great work.
Very good, thank you so much.
Brian, I've heard nothing but positivity. I had a family member come out and visit. I brought him over there, and he wanted me to drive all the way to Pawtucket to get your coffee beans, but
Cool.
thankfully you guys said, no, you only have to drive over to East Providence. We have a bag of them over there. So
Cool.
if you're getting any orders from Minnesota, that's for my brother.
Very cool, awesome.
I love that you're open every day now.
Yeah.
That was as I'm sure you've heard from other
Many times
people.
As I go there, I didn't realize it until the other day, just driving by, and I thought, why are all these cars? I think it was Monday. No,
Yep.
Monday or Tuesday, I don't remember what day, but it was this week, and I was like, oh my goodness, there's people coming out. I was so happy to see that.
Yep. Yeah, we had a staff meeting yesterday afternoon, and like we thought it was like, oh, Tuesday afternoon is slow, and then we kept having to turn people away. So it's a good problem.
Yeah.
I hope that continues, sir.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
So
So do I.
Did you take down the information of the individual that asked for that drink to let them know that they can come back?
It was apparently I just learned today from my bar manager that espresso martini is the most popular drink in America right now. It's it's like
wow.
a trending drink that, you know, it changes every year, but
Right.
so it's like, all right, well, I can use that.
Awesome.
That's great.
So I think it's going to be more than one person looking for the espresso martini.
Best of
Nice.
luck.
Thank
so we
you.
have a
Nice.
motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck.
Good
Thank you very
luck.
much.
Good luck.
And we need it when?
So the 6-month period would be December 6th, but there is no council meeting, the organizational meeting on December 7th. So that's the options of this. 3 weeks early or 3 weeks later.
I would go with the 16.
I would do the 3 weeks early and either do the 3 weeks early or do it and not have them pick it up until the 6th. I think it would be better that, especially going into the holidays, people will be out. I think there's you know, we'll be having the tree lighting down here, people want to go up there, there's gonna be, I think they want to try to put something together for up in the holidays as well. I think it would be better, the 3 weeks early would be better for everybody.
So Mary's saying the 16th, November 16th. Is that it? Great. Yeah, I'm definitely for that.
So I disagree. And I disagree because this council took action. And Brian, I already said you're doing a great job. It has nothing to do with that. But what stops this council from saying, we said 6 months and now because of whatever the issues are, it's 2 months early and then it's 3 months early. How do we be consistent with this? And I'm overstating a little bit, but I think that again, Brian is doing a great job. Absolutely no reflection on your establishment whatsoever. But when this council takes action, it does it for a purpose. And the 6-month review, in my opinion, is not necessarily a reflection of Brian, but it could be the next license that's in front of us. And when we take action that is different from what we've already said we wanted to do for the right reasons, I don't think that, I mean, I love the motivations, it's not wrong, but I think this council will have, or a council, the new council, will have a reorganizational meeting the first week in December. And I would be more than happy to make sure that either that we have a meeting scheduled right away. I would be happy to also have if we had some other agenda item that we needed to address, to have a special meeting or something like that. But I believe that our processes are important to follow. And when we go off course on it, we open up the opportunities for other things to go off course. Again, Brian, no reflection on you whatsoever. So, but it's totally up to this council.
Mr. Chairman, I definitely, I hear what you're saying on as far as process goes. I just think when it comes to a good reputable business, and I think we just need to be a little bit flexible. And I think the 16th, because we know that this will get this business prepared for the holiday and able to be very, very successful. I think I just don't think it's too much to do the 16th and get this business where they need to be.
Okay.
So
I'll
just
take that as a
my
motion.
opinion. Yes.
I'll second it.
Okay, so motion made by Tim, seconded by Aaron so we're going to call for public hearing. Help me with the last part of it. When would the license actually be given? Issued, thank you. Lacking a
So
word.
it would be dependent on all of the documents being retained by the applicant. I mean, if the council wants to postpone it that's up to them, up to you. If you want to
Tim, I'll
have the
defer
public
to you
hearing.
because it was your motion.
So you can have the public hearing on November 16th, and then once the applicant provides all of the appropriate documentation, then he would get it. So we would still need to get clearance from the Division of Taxation, the Secretary of State, the Department of Health, Water Pollution Control, all of those. It's also the time of renewal. So all of the other issue is the way that I advertise this in the paper, because all of the liquor license renewals start to get advertised. So the way we advertise the liquor license renewals, I'm either advertising him as a limited or a full. It's a tricky situation because the council meeting meets in 2 weeks versus the 3 weeks because of the holiday, because of the
Right.
Thanksgiving holiday. Generally speaking, it would have just gone to the week of the third week of November, but we
Right.
don't have the third week in November,
Mhm.
which kind of pushes it back a little bit. And then that first week of December is the reorganizational meeting. So it's another missed regular council meeting. So it's.
We can
But if-
actually hear this at our reorganizational meeting. In the past, we've had
if the
agenda
council-
items. So
If the council
it could
wants to
affect,
push it to December
make sure
7th
that we
during
don't push
that.
this forward and still follow what we said we wanted to do. If everybody would, look, I heard a motion, so we will vote on this motion as stated. But if your goal was to make sure, and I agree with the goal, let me be really clear, but I also think that it's important we follow process. But I think we can do that and hear this at a reorganizational meeting. I don't think there's any problem with it. I don't hear any objection to anybody wanting not to, not wanting to approve it. So everybody's called up. So, but we have a motion and a second, so we're going to vote on that motion. Is there any other discussion in regards to that? Okay, so go ahead.
Could I have
please.
the motion again, please? Because I'm a little unclear, because I'm looking at, we have 2 more meetings prior to the organizational meeting. We have a November 2nd and November 16th.
Because of the space between those meetings, it's typically 3
Right.
weeks. One of them is 2 weeks.
Right.
And that, because of the advertising requirements, means that we can't do it on that meeting. So there's a culmination of things that are kind of in the way. So the time that we could do it is our reorganizational meeting. And the rationale behind that is because we don't have the 2 years scheduled yet, right? So the new
Mhm.
council has to approve the new schedule, but we do have the reorganizational one scheduled, and that can be heard if this council wanted to do that. Or we can vote on what the motion I heard from Tim was that we call for the public hearing on November 16th. And then I wasn't clear. I can't restate the rest of it, but
There was
we can-
paperwork or something.
thank you. Yes. I
There was a
wasn't sure
whole
on
list
that
of
part.
paperwork.
That all of the, that all of his leave.
Which would be
encumbrances,
normal on any
Which would be
license. So
normal on any license.
Right.
So we would be consistent with what's in the agenda, keeping November 16th as the
Right.
public hearing.
that is what Tim's
That's the
motion
motion.
says.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any other discussion or clarity? Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, the next item on the agenda is F2. This is Paul Viveras of 4 Siegel Street. This is a request for no parking box across from the driveway on west side of Siegel Street.
I make a, my on? Yes. Okay, I make a recommendation there, or recommendation, motion to approve based on the recommendation of the Director of Public Works.
And we should,
And the chief, I think you'd said the same as well, correct? There is. Right, there is some limitations on that, so
it was abbreviated, right? 6
abbreviated,
feet.
correct.
Yep.
Not a box, but it has
Mhm.
space to. By the parking lot, by the parking space, like 6 feet additional.
Mr.
That is-
Chairman,
I believe that's what it
Chief.
was.
First, I didn't mean to be texting during the council meeting, but I was communicating with Lieutenant Wozni, who wrote the petition up and worked with Director Perella. Generally, a parking block is 16 to 20 feet in length. What they recommended was that we deny the original no parking block, and we recommend a 6-foot, we'll paint it no parking, which will give the homeowner enough swing to get out of the driveway comfortably.
So you said
so the-
your motion was to approve, and I would assume also to include it, that we want to refer to the solicitor to create an ordinance.
Correct.
So this is partial
do we need
relief,
that?
the 6-foot no parking space. Okay.
Do you need to? I don't. You may not need to do an ordinance.
Do we
on
need
this.
any adjustments to the ordinance?
Just refer, we'll prepare it.
Excellent.
Okay.
So motion to approve referring to the solicitor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Aaron to approve and refer to the solicitor. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is G1. This is Mount Hope Farm Trust. This is Susan C. Maloney with a letter of resignation for December at the end of her term.
Motion to accept Susan Maloney's resignation with a letter of thanks. And Madam Clerk, do we need to go out and advertise in that motion? And to go out and advertise for the vacant position?
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Mary. Any other discussion?
Thank you, Susan Maloney, for all your years of service. Definitely Mount Hope Farm benefited by your service. Thank you.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is G2. This is the Harbor Commission Advisory Committee, and this is a one-term set to expire August 2025. And we have Vasco Skip Castro III with interest in appointment.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we set an interview.
Madam Clerk, this was advertised, is that correct?
So this position is an alternate position. It's the 7th position that's been vacant for quite some
Quite some
time.
time,
So it's
yeah.
been advertised in the past and it's advertised on the website.
Excellent. All right. So motion made by Tony. Is there a second?
Second?
All right. So motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to set up a interview. Is everybody okay with our next council meeting, maybe 20 minutes before? Is that okay? that's
Yep.
what we-
Yeah,
we-
that'd be great.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that works for me.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, the next item on the agenda is H1. This is the Rhode Island DEM Fish and Wildlife presentation related to the local deer population and the town's hunting ordinance. This is for consideration of a creation of a cooperative agreement for archery deer hunting, continued from August 24th.
Welcome.
Hello, my name is Dylan Ferrer. I'm with Rhode Island Division of Fish and Wildlife, and I'm here to talk about everybody's favorite animal, deer.
Oh, dear.
So just got to share my screen here.
Couldn't help it.
Alrighty, so over the past several years, I've been getting calls and complaints almost annually about property damage, deer vehicle collisions that are affecting Bristol residents. So they've asked myself to come to the town and try and do something about the overpopulation of deer. So just for everyone's understanding, my role as a deer project leader for the Division of Fish and Wildlife is to manage Rhode Island's deer population. So some of the things that I'll do is I'll define goals such as reducing human deer conflicts, such as deer vehicle collisions. I'll set objectives like reducing deer vehicle collisions because those are not good and people don't want those. I'll monitor those annually and keep track of them. And then when they hit certain thresholds, we'll make actions to try and achieve our goals. And then so on, I'll continue to evaluate those. So just some general background about whitetail deer. They live across the United States and into South America. Their habitat is basically all of Bristol, Rhode Island, and most of Rhode Island. So they can live in big forest tracts like Tillinghast Management Area and small urban parks such as Colt State Park, Mount Hope Farm, Papa Squash Point, and urban areas like that. They eat a variety of things: acorns, apples, grass, everyone's favorite bushes, their arborvitaes, hydrangeas. Physically, most people here have probably seen deer before. The males can go upwards of 250 pounds. They have antlers. The adult does can reach around 100 or 200 pounds on the hoof. And each year they'll breed in November, in the fall. And that's when they have their highest movements. And that's when a lot of the deer vehicle collisions can occur.
Dylan, you had shared this, you did a great job at our, when was it, August 24th meeting?
Yes.
And you had shared this with us. And
Yes.
Again, I say again, you did an outstanding job. I think this council learned a lot. I know the public actually had a lot of feedback about your presentation. It was really positive. This, my understanding was that you wanted to talk about specifically is focusing on some areas
Yes.
in town, right?
I just want to make sure everybody's kind of on the same level playing field of understanding. And
So
then
we
I'll
can,
get to
we
that.
can keep it really high because we've already gone through it. So go ahead, though.
Perfect. So problems with deer in Bristol. There's too many. There's ticks, deer vehicle collisions, property damage. I won't go over this too in detail, like you've mentioned, but we don't want cases of Lyme disease in the town or alpha-gal syndrome, which is from the Lone Star tick, and that makes people allergic to red meat. Deer vehicle collisions, they're expensive. And this year we're on track to potentially beat the highest with 30 this year. And we still have the highest month to go, which is November. It's one of the highest in the state for the towns. Property damage. There's residential, ornamental plants, gardens, yards, commercial, sunflowers, corn. Why Bristol? Why Bristol? Why are there issues there? There's not a lot of hunting pressure. It's the perfect place for them to live. There's not a lot of natural predators. Some of the options: legal regulated hunting, sharpshooting, fertility control, translocation, the movement of animals, and fencing off properties. Currently, there's legal regulated hunting. It's mainly archery. Hunter education is required on private property with written permission, and we have a pretty low harvest, 15 to 20 deer annually. We do issue deer damage permits for those people who have agricultural farms. And the other options are very costly, very intensive, and they require annual upkeep. So the biggest roadblock to hunting effectiveness is access to deer. So because per state law, hunters need annual written permission from the landowner to deer hunt on their property. So my recommendation is for the town to create a cooperative agreement with Rhode Island DEM Division of Fish and Wildlife to allow archery deer hunting on appropriate town properties in response to overabundant deer issues such as increased of deer ticks and their potential health concerns such as disease, increased number of deer vehicle collisions, and residential and agricultural property damage. So I would propose a cooperative regulation to be as such. We would collaborate with the town, the local PD, and DEM law enforcement at 4 locations, and it would start in fall of 2023, and the season would run from September 15th through the end of January. Hunting licenses and deer permits are required, and hunter education is required by all hunters. It'd be archery deer hunting only. There'd be signage and press releases before and during hunting season, and no liability to be incurred to the town. So if a hunter goes on their property, breaks their ankle because they stepped on a rock, the hunter can't sue the town. This is one site off of Tupelo Street. It's approximately 150 acres, and it's owned by the town of Bristol. So you can see the light green shading is the 200-foot buffer, which is required by state law for archery deer hunters to be that far from a house. So there's still a large piece of property that they could hunt. This is off Hope Earth Ave, 65 acres with the town of Bristol. Same thing here. The property to the north outside of the circle is state owned and owned by the Veterans Home as well. So hopefully this would pass and set precedent, and then potentially the Veterans Home would follow suit to open more property. The town landfill in the wooded section, approximately 50 acres. Same story here, 200-foot buffer. And then off of Gooding Ave, another 40 acres. So there are existing hunting cooperatives nationally in Ohio, New Jersey, and Missouri, and they usually have overwhelming support when there are issues like we see here in Bristol. In Rhode Island specifically, we already have cooperative hunting programs in place with Westerly Land Trust, South Kingston Land Trust, the Nature Conservancy, Block Island State Land, and other state parks. So it's not something new to the state and myself. So in summary, deer are overabundant. They need to be reduced to fall below cultural carrying capacity, which is how many people are willing to live with. And the best management option to reduce that is through legal regulated hunting. And with that, my favorite slide, I'll take questions.
Outstanding. Nice job.
Thank
Again,
you.
it was extremely fast too. Nice job.
I felt the pressure. I was like, okay, we gotta get through
You did
this.
feel the pressure, but you did a great job. You
So-
seriously did.
Felt like Groundhog's Day over here. Mr. Chairman, can I ask?
Please, absolutely. Please.
Can you put it back to the video of, or not the video, the 4 pictures of the 4
Yes.
spots?
Do you want me to go through them one by one, kind of?
Just, yeah, I just quickly wanted to see them one more time.
Yeah, just let me know when you're ready to go to the
That's
next one.
Tupelo. Okay. Hope Earth. Okay. What, landfill, okay. Okay, thank you.
So if this council sees the value
Yes,
of taking the next step on this, our next step is to approve or consider, you asked us to consider a creation of a cooperative agreement. So I guess we would approve the next steps for a cooperative agreement with RIDEM to allow archery deer hunting on appropriate town properties. I could probably stop right there, right? Council?
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
just had a couple questions.
Please.
You mentioned it's archery only.
yes,
And you said the span of time would be September, fall, the beginning of fall to January. Is that of 2023?
yes.
5 months?
Well, technically it would be 2023 in September and then 2024 in January. In the
Yeah,
end of
right.
January.
Okay, yeah. 2024. And then, so that's a great amount of time. What are the times that they're allowed to hunt?
So a half hour before sunrise to a half hour after sunset.
Sunset. Okay, great. Archery only. And then as far as the hunters and their experience, is there a proficiency card that we could provide the police department? Because I heard you mention you were going to work with the police department to inform them and
Mhm.
on
Yes.
a regular basis. Just we're densely populated. I don't want issues.
For sure. So the state requires all hunters to take a hunter education course.
Yep.
And that's mandatory required for all hunters. In order for a hunter to actually hunt with archery equipment, they have to take a specific hunter education course that aims specifically towards archery equipment.
Okay.
So that basically is the standard for everybody. If a town or property owner wanted to do an archery proficiency course, that's up to the town to decide. Most of our cooperative properties don't require the archery proficiency course, just because our hunter education program is so rigorous that it's not necessarily needed.
And Chief, how do you feel about that? Maybe we could get your insight.
I
please?
did speak to Mr. Ferreira, and he told me that the bar or the threshold for the proficiency course is very low. And he felt as though that the education course issued by the DEM more than exceeded anything that they would acquire in a proficiency course. So I was personally satisfied with his explanation of that.
So of the two, DM is a higher bar. Is what you're saying?
Yes.
They're both DEM though, just so you know.
And Dylan, can you walk
That's
me,
interesting.
can you walk me through what it might look like in terms of like advertising around the areas and everything like that prior to hunting season and during hunting season? What does that look like in terms of just making sure that residents know that there's going to be hunting going on in those areas?
Yeah, so we have our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter pages for Fish and Wildlife. We'd be doing press releases, so local news outlets. And then we would identify most likely places that people are going to park, and we'd post signage there. So signage for the hunters and for the non-hunters, if they're going on the property to recreate, to wear hunter orange, just to be extra safe.
Okay.
And are animals involved in this hunt?
Nope.
Like dogs? Okay.
Nope. The use of dogs for deer hunting is illegal in the state of Rhode Island.
Tim asked the question that we all asked. I'm glad he asked it again, talking about safety, talking about concerns of the neighbors. What issues, and I remember what you said, but I just want to hear you say it again. What issues have happened in the past in Rhode Island with hunters, people getting hurt from a stray arrow, we'll say. So
It doesn't happen for archery hunting. It rarely happens for firearm hunting as well. And it's even less likely to happen in archery hunting.
counsel?
Can I ask you, so during that season, it would be every day from dawn to dusk type of thing that they would be
Yes.
able, can a town limit it so that, certain times, so that it, like, the public is not necessarily there at the same time as the hunters?
That is something the town could decide. Most of the time, if the town were to do that, like Block Island has, they regulate weekends, holidays, winter break, stuff like that. And that is the worst thing you can do if you're trying to reduce deer densities, because those are the times that the hunters can go as well. So I would advise against that. We don't typically see hunters and non-hunters conflict on state lands or other cooperative properties. They can commingle very well.
So what is the proficiency of the hunter? I mean, like, do they usually get the deer in one shot, or there are deer running around that are injured?
Typically, most archers are going to shoot the deer one time. The deer can run anywhere from 50 to 100 yards where it will die.
So you're saying that they have almost 100% proficiency on their shots?
I wouldn't say 100%. I
Close to.
think for the last hunter survey we did, it was around 10% of not success. So we're looking at a 90% percent success.
So what happens to the deer so if they get shot
Mhm.
with the arrow, would they die, or that sometimes they get them at the wrong place and they just continue to live, but they're injured?
Most of the time, if a hunter shoots a deer with a bow and they're not recovered, they're going to live. They're very hardy animals. So if you don't hit them in the right location, the heart and lungs, the vital area, they're most likely going to survive.
But you're saying there's 90% of the time they get them.
They die very quickly and humanely.
Any other questions from the council?
Yeah, I think. I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Administrator, please.
If I may.
Of course.
So if we do not enter into a cooperative agreement and get some kind of control over the deer population, what is the prediction 3 or 4 years from now?
Deer vehicle collisions will continue to increase. which in my opinion is a worse death for a deer. You know, there's potential risk for human harm as well. And there's often times where the deer can be injured from that and run off into the woods. Tick cases are likely to increase as well. I'm no tick expert or Lyme disease expert, but I would imagine it's definitely not going to stay level. It's going to continue to rise. In the same case for property damage, you know, there's going to be continued damage to personal and commercial property.
I think one of the things with hunting is, I mean, I think I don't want to say it's an evil, but it's necessary because, you know, eventually you just can't support all of the animals, whatever the animal happens to be, in this case, the deer, to all remain healthy and to, you know, if you don't thin that herd out, like I understand the rationale, I'm just curious as to, you know, how successful it is with archery, because most people are not particularly familiar, like average people. I'm not particularly familiar with hunting in general, but you kind of see, like, you know, in television and stuff a lot more with guns as opposed to with the archery.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely easier to harvest deer with firearms, but most people who are archery hunting are going to let the deer get close enough to where they can make an accurate shot, because no hunter is going to want to wound a deer because they don't want to deal with, you know, that sort of guilt, I'll use lightly, of wounding an animal. Hunters aren't heading out into the field to hurt animals, you know. Right. They're going out there to harvest the deer, to, you know, have sustainable meat for themselves and to hopefully reduce the deer population for the better of the whole population.
So how many archery hunters are there in Rhode Island?
So I don't know archery numbers off the top of my head, but we have around 5,000 deer hunters in the state.
And so you thin the population out to what degree?
So right now in Rhode Island, we're currently working on a population model. So we'll use the data that we get from our deer harvest. Hunters will go out, harvest deer, and bring their deer to us. We'll take biological measurements, take that information, plug it into a model, and then it sort of spits us out a number of how many deer are in the state. Ideally, we're going to be at 10 to 20 deer per square mile. I haven't done that model here in Bristol, but I know it's well above that number, just based off of the deer vehicle collisions, reports of property damage, and stuff like that. So we want to reduce that deer density or total number in the state down to that 15 to 20 per square mile.
Yeah, Dylan, I'm generally in support of this. Certainly, I have a lot of experience from where I grew up with this. Usually, the problem is not enough deer out there. Is there, let's say a year goes by with this program or something like that. Are we going to be able to get some kind of report back, or maybe some data back about how successful the program was, and whether it's something that we should continue into the future?
Yeah, so we'll have deer harvest. That's something that I have right at my fingertips. You know, we're getting people harvesting deer tonight. We'll report that harvest tonight live, or they can report it tomorrow morning. So at the end of every hunting season, I'll have the harvest numbers for each year. The quickest data I'll have for you, other than that, in each year is going to be deer vehicle collisions. So that'll be a way for us to sort of look at what's going on in Bristol and how is hunting positively or negatively impacting the deer population. The one thing I'll add is if it's not working, it doesn't necessarily mean to pull back. It just means what else can we do to continue to improve the chance of success. And that where really private property owners come into play, because the town only has, you know, those 4 or 5 properties that look suitable right now. So hopefully by the town taking the first step, private property owners will look at themselves and be like, you know, maybe this is something I should do too for the better of Bristol and the people of Bristol.
Dylan, what haven't we asked that we should have?
I have a question that might be the answer to that.
What she says.
What she asked is the
what she
question
asked.
we didn't ask. Okay.
Technical.
So you said that there are about 15 to 20 deer that are harvested annually from Bristol currently.
Yes.
Mary, just one moment, Mr. Administrator.
Okay, I'll stop.
Although it's a really nice picture. Yeah. Thank you.
So-
This is a much better video.
So I wanted to just find out, like, what would be an ideal or success for the number of deer that would be harvested instead of 15 to 20? What would it be in your eyes?
So if we're having deer vehicle collisions around 40 annually and we're harvesting 20, I'd like to see those numbers inversed. So if we could have 40 deer harvested and half as many hit by vehicles, to me, that would be a huge win.
Well,
Yes, chief?
Mr. Ferrera, in the deer hunting season regulations, Bristol is a zone 1 area. Am I correct in that?
Yes,
And in that, it says that a hunter could take 3 antlerless deer. Is that per the whole season from September 15th to January 31? Or under a cooperative agreement, does that limit come off and they can go above that current regulation?
so that is 3 for the hunter for the entire year within that zone.
Okay.
So just for clarity, so what you just said was that if it's a zone 1, Bristol's a zone 1, there's other zone 1s, right? Then there's zone 2s, right?
Mhm.
How many zones are there?
4,
Okay, all right. So you can go to different zones?
yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we refer this to the town administrator and the solicitor to create an agreement, a cooperative agreement with the Rhode Island DEM.
Is there a second?
second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to refer to the administrator, and I'm assuming the solicitor also, to create a cooperative agreement. Discussion? Hearing none, all, I'm sorry, Tim.
Oh, no, it's just gonna make sure that as long as the hunters are required to check in with the PD and have the proficiency card, and just in making sure that whoever's, making the kill, where they're experienced, so we don't run into any issues. Again, back to your point, Mr. Chairman, safety first.
We'll make sure that that is captured in that agreement.
Thank
Any
you.
other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Dylan.
Thank
And
you.
support.
Supporting staff.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I1. This is public notice from CRMC in regards to Timothy Duchan and Alyssa Merkel of 90 King Philip Avenue. This requires a response before October 22nd. We have recommendation from town administrator and the harbor master.
We're looking at that recommendation. Mr. Administrator, is this a receive and file, or is there action that you're looking for from this council? I know it needs to be in front of us, so.
I don't think there is a requirement for you to take action.
Excellent.
It's more of an informational, but we have, harbor master has no objections.
Yeah,
That's
We
what I wanted to
reviewed-
hear.
We reviewed the plan.
Absolutely.
based on a positive recommendation from the harbor master, I make a motion to receive and file.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to receive and file because of that positive recommendation. Any other discussion?
Just very briefly, I appreciate the recommendation, but I always caution that we don't give up too much of our harbor,
Well put. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I
Yep.
can't just in case.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I2. This is Shaylin Davy from the pretreatment coordinator. And this is the proposed amendments to chapter 22 of the town code for sewers and sewer disposals. And this is various amendments to the sewer use ordinance.
Hi, Shaylin, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good. So
Good.
this is in front of us to coincide and for the requirements from the states, right? So our policies and procedures coincide with that required by the state. right?
Yes, DEM came and audited the pretreatment program and specifically looked for federal EPA pretreatment regulations that were part of a 2005 streamlining process. A lot of it's just kind of including wording about best management practices, making sure businesses report certain documentation about their monitoring activities, results of any testing they do, extra testing, their best management practices and any documentation related to that. And that documentation stays on site for 3 years. And while I was in there, I was noticing me and the DEM pretreatment coordinator noticed, little things like typos or, just clarity issues. So went in and did some of those things, added some definitions for some of the requirements that needed to be added and just necessary definitions in general. And there were some things pointed out by DEM that some of, again, our wording was maybe a little bit more stringent than what was required by DEM. I mean, by EPA actually. And so something like we have a requirement in our SUO right now to,
Say that again?
we have a requirement in our sewer use ordinance right now to renew your discharge permit with me 90 days before its expiration, but the permit is only for a year right now, whereas DEM would allow it to be up to 5 years. So I feel like 30 days is more plausible for somebody to
So loosening restrictions. on it.
loosening just
Okay.
like little bits like that.
Okay.
Or if I was going to extend the permit, then I would go back to the 90 days because I'd be like, okay, you gotta. And then other things just to lessen confusion. We had a 2008 previously approved enforcement response plan. And there were parts of it that I added to so that they were accessible to the businesses. As well as just, I guess one of the biggest changes I made was to the permit fee schedule, which is just the categories and categorizations of the businesses. They were a little vague before. I added more clarification, so there's no confusion about what category businesses would land in, and tried to keep the fees relatively the same or well distributed between levels where I might be talking about like their flow of their effluent or restaurant seating capacities or business size. But most businesses won't see increased costs really, maximum of maybe like $50. And some businesses will see a decrease where others might see a more significant increase, but it would be already kind of related to needing a reclassification. And I would send out a letter to kind of explain that. So that's kind of the Cliff Notes version. If you
As I
have any-
went through it, I thought the edits were great, and it's much cleaner and clearer. So, and I know we need to be in line with the state. So thank you for this. And
No
so,
worries.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to refer this to the solicitor to draft an ordinance.
Second,
Discussion?
just very briefly, thank you. It's quite elaborate going through it, interesting. So,
No worries.
but it's nice that we're making those adjustments and aligned with the state as well.
Can I just double check that? This, what you did is acceptable by the state, am I correct?
Yes, so this draft went to the DM Department of Water Resources already and was reviewed by them. And then they have their process and we have our process. So it's kind of a layering of processes of getting it approved. So they have already reviewed it and they just needed your sign off on it. And so we could move forward with
In
it.
official language, so there's not gonna be any issue with any of that.
Correct.
Okay, great, that's what I
Yes.
really wanted to know,
Yeah.
thank you.
Perfect.
Just a quick question
Mhm.
about, I was looking at the permit fee scales and
Mhm.
everything like that. And it's really nice to see those updated because now they have the breweries in there and everything
Yeah.
like that. I heard that was something that was kind of coming down the pike for a while.
Yeah.
One of the questions I had about the permit fee updates that you've made is, to what extent are those consistent with maybe what other towns our size are doing? Is that are we going to remain competitive in terms of what we're charging for the fees vis-a-vis other communities?
Yeah, that's a really good question because every pretreatment program is so different.
Mhm.
I kind of wanted to keep with what we had, already established. And again, try to make it a little bit more clear for people because sometimes communities only charge for the initial application or they don't even they don't even go this specific with categories. They just have like 3 set categories, and they'll have like very large charges, and they might go 5 years or yearly, or so it's kind of hard to say. I did try.
Sounds like a little side project.
Yeah, I was working on it for a while, and so it's a little bit difficult to say, but that's why I didn't want to change the fees drastically or anything like that. Those were figured out, to try to cover the pretreatment program budget initially. So, and I don't like charging people money, to be honest. So I wanted to keep it relatively the same, and we'll let the town administrator and Jose De Silva decide if the prices need to increase, but at least the categories are more clear.
Okay.
So that was kind of my goal there. And
Any other discussion?
Well, when we're talking about the fees, we need to consider also is the impact that some of these breweries, the additional discharge will cause to our infrastructure. So, I mean, after all, we know how much we pay in to upgrade our sewer plant right now. So we need to keep that in mind.
Yeah. What I liked, what I made sure I added for that section that would include breweries, which was already partly there, was the tiers of flow rates. Most breweries do not have a high flow rate at all, like not even close to the 250,000. So they will be in that low range. And it will benefit them to monitor their flow and make sure those things are being recorded and sent to me. So it's good to at least have that there, and they know they're not going to be in the high category, but at least it's known that, okay, that's where I am. I know that what my flow is.
Perfect.
So
Thank you. Any other discussion? So we had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shaylin.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I3. This is the Executive Director, Diane Maderas, from the East Bay Community Development Corporation. And this is in regards to a tax stabilization request for property owned by the East Bay CDC. We did receive an email from Director Maderas, which I put a copy on the council agenda. She is requesting to withdraw the request at this time for consideration in the future. They need to clarify a couple of issues.
Mike, what's the motion?
So the motion would simply be to table that,
Table? Okay.
because it'll come back. to something.
Thank you, Mike.
Motion to table the matter.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I4. This is Town Administrator Contente, and this is with the report to the town council on the condition of the town Christmas tree in front of the Burnside building.
We're at Christmas again, Mr. Administrator. Here it comes. Ho, ho, ho.
I think this is a good one.
You get the fun one. Good
Yeah.
for you.
Well, it's kind of bittersweet.
We were killing reindeers earlier.
I
so-
know.
I'm sorry.
Please.
I'm sorry.
Makes
the-
me sad.
For the health and welfare, right?
Of course it is.
The Christmas tree out front, we've tried to salvage it a couple of times now. We've had a tree company come to look at it. They've thinned it out. They've treated it. We could continue to get by with the way it looks, which really doesn't bother many of us, including myself. The problem is it's getting very close to the distribution lines that come up Court Street. So it's kind of a safety issue now, getting the tree decorated. So the tree warden has sourced a Colorado blue spruce. It's in West Kingston, Rhode Island. It's at a nursery. There was a photo in your packet of the actual tree. It's between 16 and 18 feet. We believe it would fit very nicely in front of the Burnside building. So this is just such an important thing for all of us. I just wanted to be upfront and informative that we think it's time that we replace the tree. So we'd like to do it in November before the grand illumination.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because this has been quite a discussion over a few years, but looking at that tree, my wife says, that's not a Christmas tree, the way it just doesn't, the perimeter, it's not a pyramid, it's that
Yeah.
cone type of thing. So anyway, but I think the time has come for the replacement. You know, just one thing we need to consider is the soil out there too, you know, replacement some soil.
So what we're gonna do is, we have the funding in our tree program. We're gonna be doing a fall planting. We have enough to cover it, which means few less trees we'll have for a street side this fall. But we will hire a company to come in and properly plant it. The DPW will remove the current tree, but the new planting will be done by a local tree company.
Well, to that
We're gonna ask that they test the soil, check the pH and all that.
To that end, maybe if this council is amenable, maybe this council could take $1,000 out of our council contingency to, instead of taking money out of our tree fund or that much money out of the tree fund, we can help offset that and also show our belief and importance of that wonderful holiday and that wonderful celebration that so many give back to.
I'll make
Yeah.
that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Motion
Ho,
made.
ho, ho. Okay.
So motion made by Mary, seconded by
Tony.
Tim, ho-hoed by Tony.
I thought it
To
was,
approve?
I thought it was ho-hoed by this guy in the
It
picture.
could be. Any other discussion?
What do you think the total cost would be
It's
on something like this?
the tree with delivery is 40, just under $4,500, but it is a sizable mature tree.
And do we get the gentleman to the left of the picture? or-
He
That's the
stands for
farmer.
season.
Yeah, he's the farmer.
Yeah,
But no, it's, as I
all
said,
joking aside.
it's kind of, a lot of us like the tree, even though it's not
It's
that
beautiful.
shapely. Some of us still, it's ours, right?
Right.
So, but no, I think it's really, as I said earlier, it's really a safety thing now. We have to get a more appropriate size tree for
Is it
that
gonna be
area.
moved? Are we gonna move it
No.
slightly?
No, because in the center of the burn site, there's another tree there, so that's the best place for it.
So this one's just gonna be smaller,
Yeah,
a little smaller.
yeah, but that tree there, I think it's been about almost 30 years now, right? It's been there.
I would say.
Yeah, that was
from-
that was
Oh, the one
donated
that's
from,
out there?
yeah,
Oh,
I
yes,
think
yeah.
can't remember his last name, Rick from the gas company donated that. He lived on, I believe, near Fried Avenue. That's where that one came from. We've been
Wow,
looking around
yeah.
town. In fact, I tried to get the tree from behind the old Taco Bell, I called the real estate company. So we've been on the hunt for a tree, but the best thing to do is get one that we know is, has a good root
been
system,
raised,
and yeah, it's gonna be properly taken out and
Beautiful.
So we had a motion made by Mary, seconded by Tim to take $1,000 out of council contingency to offset some of the cost. And I know that we all from this council and the town say thank you to you said who it was that donated the tree that I'll tell you what, and maybe we'll get it at the next meeting but to say thank you because it was here for 30 years and it made a lot of people happy and I know the new one will too. So
Rick from the gas company.
Rick from the
Sorry.
gas.
That's a Bristol thing.
So if he was standing up here and he stated his name. I don't know.
We know exactly who it is.
All in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
From the gas.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is J1. This is RFP 995 for the HVAC project for Quincy Gameland Center. The bid opening was today at noon. We did receive one bid today from Automatic Temperature Controls, Inc. from Cranston, Rhode Island, with a bid amount of $134,800.
Make a motion to refer to the town administrator and the director of Parks and Recreation to act in the best interest of the town.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Mary to refer to the administrator. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is K1. This is Alan Klepper from the Barrington Director of the Bristol County Water Authority with the monthly report for September 2022.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony. We'll receive and file. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And there endeth the meeting. So thank you, everyone. It was an efficient meeting and good evening.
And a
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, motion to adjourn. See, I was almost there.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.